Hello all. Thanks for coming along to my presentation. My name is Tom Lake. I'm a technical account manager from the UK office. So I deal with 4 or 5 key accounts based in the support department, and I'll just cover some common technical support issues that you may face with Master Control. So I'll start just over the last year, did some analysis of the most common issues for support tickets we've had so far in the last 14 months or so. As you can see, docs or documents is the largest piece of the pie. Most of that is due to the fact that it's the most commonly used module. Yes? Sure, sorry. Yeah, is that better? Yeah. Great. So yeah, it's the most commonly used module, so that accounts for the largest section, and also just the complexities around linked items with routes, info card types, and all other aspects. Publishing is also up there, quite high, with publishing queue and AdLib. And again, every customer uses AdLib and publishing, so that's also a key factor for that one. So basically, I'm not going to go through every item, but just generally we'll cover some issues that are easily worked around or just for your information to help. So with the documents module, one of the issues that we see quite often, mostly with users or sites that have upgraded from 10 to 11, don't know about this feature, which is to prevent users from hitting the revision button. The option for one-step revision is now on the info card types. So if you were to uncheck that, users would have to check out documents rather than just clicking the one-click revision. So that's a good one. Quite a few people don't know about that if they've become accustomed to version 10 and then upgraded to 11. Another common one we see is the
checked.
Sorry?
So the box is by default checked and you need to uncheck the
yes,
box?
Yes.
Okay.
Another common one is certain workstations not being able to display the PDFs from Master Control. You see error messages in the browser such as failed to load PDF, JavaScript must be enabled. So this is normally due to the fact that the browser has an integrated PDF viewer enabled, and that's causing the browser to try and display the PDF file. The features added to the PDF by AdLib and Master Control, such as expiry dates, can often be too complex for these things. So disabling the browser's ability to display PDFs will force it to use your local install of Acrobat or equivalent, and that should resolve the issues for that. So publishing, that's the next topic we've got. So this one, if documents aren't getting added to the publishing queue, or when you try and manually add, you see red winks such as 0 documents added to the queue. Key areas to check for this are the configuration parameters for publishing itself, the vault settings, publish settings, and that the main file actually exists and can be viewed from the info card. If it's missing, then obviously we can't publish that. One of the most common areas this issue comes up is with site copies. So you've copied your production site to development or QA or test, but the electronic files haven't been copied over. So your site's working, but your files are missing. You will see this if not only the main file's missing, but also cover sheet templates and all of those areas. So publishing MSG files or emails, this is a common one as well. So often Office gets installed on the publishing server to allow you to publish Excel, Word, etc. But quite often Outlook doesn't get installed. And also it needs to be configured in a manner that it can open the MSG files without any prompts. For Outlook, that means an email address or an account has to be configured as well so that it can open those MSG files, allow them to be published and exit without any user interaction. And then we've just got general failures, things to look for in your documents. We've got items like margins being too small, embedded documents rather than a copy or paste or insert, it links to another document. Tracking's enabled, macros, passwords, all of these things can cause issues when trying to publish documents.
So if the tracking option in Word is enabled,
Mm-hmm.
it might cause publishing
It might do, yes. Not all the time, but all of these issues, you know, if you have problems with the document, it's worth checking these items just to see if they're the cause.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about the mixed page orientation? Because that's very interesting, because I know our typewriter wants to do, you know, landscape and portrait together. I don't think
Sure.
it's a good idea, but
yeah, I mean, generally it does work. You know, lots of users have mixed orientation, but it's just something to be aware of if there are problems, particularly when it's combined with different margins on those different pages and different layouts. But generally, you can mix portrait and layout and landscape. But again, similar with the margins and things like that, it's just something to be aware of if you do encounter an issue. You know, we can try troubleshooting by changing the orientation of the page, see if it corrects the issue, and if it does, then dig deeper as to why on that particular document or that page it's suffering from issues. So training and courses next. So this is one that's been run into by a few users on version 11. So it's not just cannot sign off on training task, it's after an exam has been failed, it's gone to verifier, it goes back to the user to resit the exam. They're able to sit that exam a subsequent time without having read the materials again. This allows them to get right to the sign-off step, but they're unable to do so. It's not an option to perform that. The workaround is to go back to the material section, view the verifier's rejection comments, and sign-off will become available again. The defect is fixed in current releases, but if you're on a version older than these two listed, then you could encounter this problem. Really, you would expect the user to view those comments, so the fix just makes sure that they go to the material section before they can even move on to the sign-off step. So it's just confusing, that one, for a lot of users, why they can get there but not actually sign off on anything. So the next one is SCORM. So this is less specific issues you might run into with SCORM, but how it's configured within Master Control. So it was added to version 11. A SCORM file is just a zip containing all the interactive training materials in the SCORM format. We currently only support SCORM 1.2, and that must contain the IMS manifest XML file, which is part of SCORM, and it's a mandatory file for those to be read. We would upload that SCORM file to the course as the main file, and when the trainee is assigned that course, they would launch in a separate window within the browser. They interact with the course and the training materials, and sign off provided all steps have been completed. And optionally, you can set exams and things like that to ensure that what they've been trained on is understood. There aren't many known issues with SCORM, so that's why we've just covered the setup. It's quite new to 11, like I say. There is a session all around SCORM, but that's going on right now, so you're missing out on that one. So email issues, not too common, but it does happen. It's quite a complicated topic given the different areas involved. So basically, we're just going to cover the troubleshooting that you can perform on emails. So on the debug page, which we'll cover in a few slides' time, there's an email tester we can use. Sorry, yes?
We had an issue, so we have a collaboration step and then a second collaboration step for document control. And if you sign off on that document, on the first collaboration, it normally should send out an email notification But if you sign off during that 15-minute time slot that the emails are sent out, on the second collaboration, it doesn't send out the first email that should have been sent out, but it says it was sent out, if you got me.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, that is straight. Also, the email task runs, like you say, every 15 minutes or
Yeah.
so. So I guess what's happening there is because the second sign off is happening, it's removing the entry from the table to say it needs to send before the task runs.
Is there any way to fix that?
We could run the task more often, so reduce it from 15 minutes. Alternatively,
because right now we have to make sure that we wait long enough for the email to be sent out.
Sure.
And then sign off on the second step.
Yeah, I can't think of any workarounds other than to decrease that email sender. But we could look at it with the development team and make sure that there's not an issue there where it's removing the wrong messages from the table and get them to correct it on a code level. So yeah, so basically we've got the debug page, we've got the services that we can verify within EMS and in Raylo or Lucy, depending on your version. Another common one is that the email address on the user accounts isn't valid or isn't completed correctly. And also, we can just move on to troubleshooting through logs. And bearing in mind that emails don't always get sent immediately. So when you're coming, it might be a 15-minute delay or even every day at midnight for certain types of messages to be sent. So LDAP and WIA is quite a common one. It's not too complicated, but it does raise quite a few tech support issues. So one example is where when you're trying to perform an LDAP import, you can find the user on the domain, so on the left-hand section, but on the right-hand side there's no option to select a master control user to link this to. The most common reason for that is this particular domain user is already linked to a master control account. And when you verify that on the user screen, if you find that they're not linked, then it could be that they're linked to an incorrect account. So it is possible to accidentally choose the wrong user from the list, in which case, rather than going through every account on the system to find which one is linked, we can run a basic SQL statement on the database to find that information out and make the corrections through the front end. So when LDAP is used in conjunction with WIA, or Windows Integrated Authentication, if you find your users can log in with their domain password, but they can't log in automatically using WIA, these are basically the main steps to follow. So if your site isn't trusted or in the local internet zone, Windows won't pass on any login credentials, so you can't log in. You need to disable the IE setting for integrated Windows authentication, which sounds a bit backwards, but basically that setting enables a negotiation of authentication to be performed. So by disabling that, we'll just use the default NTLM authentication. And also the final one is a mismatch on user ID for master control and the user ID of the domain. So Windows will automatically forward on the domain username, and if that doesn't match the master control username, then WIA won't successfully log in that user automatically. Browser issues. So yeah, most common issues. Basically on the login page, every user can access the browser configuration shortcut. This will give you tips and tricks to set up your browsers correctly. Again, local internet zone, disabling compatibility view, disabling the PDF viewer, exceptions to any pop-up blockers will ensure that master control works as expected for your users. It's all pretty basic stuff, but we get quite a few issues where certain users within a site can't do certain tasks because of local browser settings. Certificates. So obviously enabling SSL or HTTPS on your site is pretty critical if you're accessible over the internet. So most users will have to enable SSL if they are internet facing. There aren't too many issues, provided we have the certificate provided in a compatible format. We will install that over through the EMS system and enable clients to access the site over the internet rather than just on your local area network or over VPN. Once installed and configured and working, the only issues we generally see going forward are things with certificate expiry or with the certificate authority having problems later on with the authentication chain. But generally, yeah, once installed, there isn't really much to go wrong with the certificate. Licensing. So rather than issues, this is covering more how to monitor your licensing. So you can always monitor your current license usage through the portal licensing current usage screens. It shows you not only how many licenses are in use, but also who's using those licenses and log-on times. For more historic usage, you can always go to portal reports. So this will show you in detail either license use for consumption, so when you're near your license limit, or by user to show when users are logged in and how much is being used. The third way is through EMS if you have access to your EMS. So if you host Master Control yourself, on the license service you're able to export a CSV of all your license information, and this can be used for any reporting or analytics you need to do. So it's just a basic file showing when the license was started and ended and on what module it was used. And tools, so there's quite a few support tools that we can use to look at issues and diagnose problems. So the first one is just the debug page. This is part of every Master Control install. It's accessible only to sysadmin. You need to log into sysadmin first before you can access this page. You can run basic SQL queries on the database to find out information if you need to. Email test link, so you can send a test email out from the system to make sure that the basic functionality is working. And also links to handy sub-tools, so you can run things like the email sender, the gap checker for training, and main task. All those kind of items are available through this interface for the sysadmin. So the toolbox is a more advanced tool. This isn't installed by default with Master Control. This is an additional installation that we can perform. It basically adds utilities to the install that we can run, again, as sysadmin, to perform various tasks. Generally, we wouldn't advise running these yourself without being instructed to do so by support, just to make sure that no untoward effects or issues are caused by running these. But there's a whole list here that we can see.
So can I ask a question?
Yes.
What is that toolbox offering for us? What can I do with that then?
So basically, it allows you to run different tools to do different different changes to the system. So you could test LDAP. You can run the training utility. So it checks for any connections between trainees and courses. One of the most useful ones for a lot of customers is the stuck packet utility. When a packet has become stuck in the system and hasn't moved on to the next step, the stuck packet utility will reset the last step of that packet to allow it to be signed off again, and that should unstick the packet.
Is that something where I can do changes to the system in MES or something like that?
So changes in the EMS, did you say?
No, in MES?
Yes, so most of these tools would do it en masse. Not the stuck packet utility, but certainly some of the other ones with file encryption, time zone. So it depends on the tool and what its function is as to whether it would do an individual or a mass.
Okay.
So the Top Threads utility is a very useful tool for version 11 customers. So this allows us to monitor and collect logs from within the master control process. So normally through the process manager in Windows, you would only see the master control instance as an exe file running. You wouldn't be able to tell necessarily what that file is doing from a code level. So by installing Top Threads on one of our servers, we're able to connect to the active process and monitor what is happening within that process. Particularly if the system is running low on resources, because the master control instance is running high on memory or CPU, it allows us to connect to that service and see what it's doing at the time, collect any logs, make any corrective actions going forwards. Without this, you're quite blind as to what master control is doing. You would just see the process consuming CPU or memory, and the only way generally to recover that, if you had to, would be to restart the service. This allows you to find out the cause, submit logs to support, and hopefully prevent the issue from occurring again in future. So again, this is one that's not installed by default. This is the tech support tool that we can install onto any customer site, provide you version 11, and show you how to use this should you run into any issues. It's a very useful tool. And then towards the end now, contact and support if you do have issues. Obviously there's multiple ways to contact us. So there's the customer website, which most users should have access to. You can raise your tickets, view historic tickets, and any active ones. You can always email support@mastercontrol.com with any screenshots, logs. It's always useful. That will automatically create a ticket on the customer website for you. And obviously phone as well. For our European customers, there's the European number that you can contact us on. And when you are raising a ticket, useful information to provide screenshots, reproduction steps, logs, the environment that you're seeing the issue in. And in some cases, we'll need a database copy as well to recreate those problems and investigate further for you and find out what's going on. But generally, yeah, email and customer website are the best places to raise those tickets. You can provide the information that will help us diagnose and find the solutions for you. And I think that's pretty much all I have today, unless there's any questions from anybody that you would like to cover. No? Yeah, and I guess final thing is just there's feedbacks for any conferences, any slides you see today. You can go to this website. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.